this is how you finish a cowboy steak. So the best steak is a ribeye, also known as the cowboy steak. Let me show you my technique to make the perfect cowboy steak. So we're gonna take this beautiful bone-in ribeye. We trimmed off some of the extra fat. So we're gonna tie this like this. And the reason we do this, because the rib cap on the outside, as this little piece of fat starts to cook off, this cap will open up, which means that the cap will overcook and also allow the center of the ribeye to also not cook as even. So we wanna keep this all tight. And no matter how much you cook this cap should stay on when we have it tied properly. And you see, we don't wanna over tie it, because what will happen when you over tie it, as it cooks, this center, because the meat wants to expand, it will bubble up and it'll just curl from the inside out, and you won't have that contact on the cast iron pan. We want as much surface of the meat in the pan touching the cast iron. So now the first step to getting this cowboy steak ready is the seasoning. I like kosher salt because to me it makes the best crust on the steak. So we're gonna season both sides, and we're just gonna dust it, okay? Now, depending on how much salt you like, a little bit of pepper also, okay? Now, depending on how much pepper you like, that's up to you. Same thing with this side. Season it up, a little bit of pepper here. Pat it down nicely so it gets in there. Now, we're gonna let this rest for a few minutes while we start working on our roasted garlic. Roasted garlic confit, which means garlic that's cooked in fat. Today, the fat will be olive oil. So we have some peeled garlic, okay? And we're gonna submerge this garlic with some extra virgin olive oil. And we're not sauteing this. We're doing this on low. And it's gonna take a little bit of time, but when it's done, you're gonna have these beautiful, soft cloves of garlic that are so sweet. And that's how we're gonna finish this cowboy steak. With that, we're gonna infuse this roasted garlic with some sprigs of fresh rosemary. When the rosemary cooks in the olive oil, it infuses that oil. It's out of the park. So to cook this beautiful cowboy steak, we're using beef tallow. Beef tallow is a fancy word for beef fat. So all the trimmings from the steak that you would normally throw away, if you just render it down very slowly, you will have this beautiful beef tallow, which is nothing more than oil. Without even cooking steak, it smells like steak. So now we're gonna get this ribeye into the pan. Be careful with this because it is hot, but that is the sizzle we want. So when cooking the ribeye, we're gonna start on high. Once we build up the crust on both sides, we will lower the temperature. And that's how we develop that beautiful crust, slowly. Here comes that moment of truth. Be careful here. Here we go. Look at that crust we've already built. After we build up this crust, this side, we are gonna lower the temperature. And we do not have to put the steak in the oven. This whole steak will be cooked in the pan on the stovetop. Now that we've built a crust on both sides, we're gonna lower this. The cast iron pan will now do all the work. It will retain the heat, and you no longer need to put it on high. And we're gonna go for a rare to medium rare. Look at that perfect golden color. Now we're gonna let this cowboy steak rest. Oh my God, the aroma from this garlic and rosemary. I wish I had a loaf of bread I'd be dipping in here. It's important to let the ribeye rest. It will need at least 10 to 15 minutes to rest. Steaks rarely are eaten hot, especially out of the pan. They need to rest. That's what makes a great steak. You want all those flavors and juices to stay in the steak as it cools down. If you cut it when it's hot, all those flavors would just spill right out, and that's not what we want. Part of making a great steak is allowing it to rest. Okay, so we have our garlic confit. Okay, it was brought up to a nice little simmer, and they're nice and soft. As you grab them, they just squish. So we're gonna take this garlic and we're gonna strain the oil. Now this oil is already infused, so you can use it anywhere else. Sauteing vegetables. There is so much flavor in this oil, you can use it for almost anything. You can even make a dressing with it. Now, we're gonna bring this back up to a higher heat, and we're gonna add, I love olive oil, but when it comes to a steak, I love nothing more than butter and garlic, roasted garlic. And we're gonna put this in here, and we're gonna let this cook down. The aroma of butter and garlic is second to none. So we have our ribeye here that's been resting. Okay, take the string off. I like to cut it right off the bone. Follow the bone all the way. And here's that moment of truth. Is what we're looking for. We're going to take this all together. We're going to set it in this pan. I have it a little bit warm. We're not getting it really hot. I'm going to grab this, just like this. You hear that little sizzle. And then with the rosemary and this. And this is how you finish a cowboy steak.